Hi everybody, it's Andrew here. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the short bevel, when you should do it in the reed making stage, how to do it, of course, and why you might want to try it yourself. So, are you ready for this? It's morphin' time.
Brontosaurus!
Also, if you haven't already, 60% of those of you who watch these videos don't actually subscribe. And I would really appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button, because the ability for me to make better content, better videos, people answer my emails quicker, people take me more seriously, the higher the subscriber count is. So I would really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. Thanks. Okay, so what I have here are two reeds which have been formed, but that have no wires on. And I'm going to talk a little bit to begin with about sort of my background on the short bevel. I first kind of came across the short bevel thanks to Gerald Corey, who was the former principal or the late principal bassoonist of the National Arts Centre Orchestra in my hometown of Ottawa, Canada. Jerry, that name you may be familiar with. He was one of the founding members of the IDRS, and he was a big sort of reed, he was very reed-oriented, I guess you could say. He was a real bassoon nerd, you know. And anyway, what he showed me in 2008, I think, was this idea of the Hertzberg short bevel. And in general, I'm not somebody who subscribes very much to this idea of naming things. You know, like there's nothing that I make which is the Andrew Byrne reed or whatever. So I will refrain from naming things on this channel. I'll explain that in another video, I think, because I think it is important, my philosophy here. But I'm just going to, for now, call it the short bevel. So what you probably already know is that I'm a big fan of the Wyatt bevel tool. I say that because it's their brand, and I want to help them out. You've seen this on my channel before. This is a really useful tool, this tool, and what it does here is that it allows you to basically get a good bevel all consistently every time. But what it doesn't do in the same way is this short bevel. And I'm going to show you now how it was taught to me in the first place, and how there was a sort of misunderstanding on my part, or maybe on Jerry's part, about how to do it. And only this summer, when I saw Kim Laskowski do it at Brook Valley Bassoon Days, did I understand that both the way it was taught to me and the way I had been trying to do it was incorrect. So the tools you need for this process, obviously you need a pre-wrapped, pre-formed blank without any wires on, no wires, or you're going to have to take the wires off, but the tip is not cut, obviously. You're going to need a standard holding mandrel. I don't know if that's in focus. It's very hard. You're going to need pliers. You're going to need quite a nice large piece of for me, this is 240 grain wet dry sandpaper, but it could be 320. 240 is fine. You're also going to need some wire, and I think that's it. So what I learned was that basically you have the reed formed, and whether it was beveled or not is unclear to me. I know from Kim Laskowski now that she doesn't bevel until after forming the tube, until after the tube is dry and formed. I saw Jerry do this, like he had formed the reed, he put a wire on, and it was still wet, and then he would undo everything and then bevel with the short bevel. I also saw him do when the thing was dry, so when the reed was dry. So it was not very clear as to what the process should be. But in any case, what I saw him do was to put the paper flat on the table, was to take the reed basically at a 90, like flat onto the table, and go for about the first 6 millimeters like this. And do about 20 double strokes. I'm not actually counting, but you get the idea. And this is the reed that I did flat at the table. I did 20 double, or roughly 20 double strokes. You can see it's sort of, there's an air gap, and there's a bit of a bump up here after the 6 millimeter mark. But it isn't really extreme. And when I close it, sort of nothing, when I close it at the butt, sort of nothing happens here. There's a little bit, it opens a little bit, but actually nothing really changes. And that was sort of what I felt when I was working with that sort of style, when I was coming at it flat against the table. And what Gerald Corey had actually sort of built for my teacher, Joanne Simpson, at a certain point, I don't remember exactly when, where these little sort of elevated square things, square pieces of wood or foam or something with the sandpaper on top, so that you could easily sand above the table, but still the process was coming at it flat on. And what I was shown this summer, and what seemed crazy at the time, and you'll see it on the camera, and you will be rather shocked. Rather than coming at it flat, we should actually angle the reed up and come at it at an angle. So I'm just going to hold this down in a weird way so that the camera can see what I'm doing. Okay, that's 20 double strokes. Okay, and what I was told by Kim once mentioned that it was a 3/8. 1, 2, 3, yeah. A 3/8 bevel, which is, it's pretty much 3/8. But you see what I'm talking about now? Almost exactly. I went a little bit further, but I did 20 double strokes at an angle, and at the moment, when you look at this as a tube, when you look at this as a tube, it seems a bit extreme. It doesn't look like you'll be able to form this because it'll leak all at the back of the tube. But I will show you the way we solve that. Okay, so I'm going to put the cane on the mandrel now, and you can see when I hold it here, you can see that this is really extreme. It's not going to close against the mandrel. But I'm going to put the first wire, I am going to begin by putting the third wire on, not the first wire. And again, this cane is dry. This is all being done dry. The tube is being formed. And so here it is. This is what it looks like. And you think, okay, well, I'm not seeing the thing that I'm supposed to see, which is that it should pop open underneath the collar area or the first wire, and that's not happening. But here's the trick that I was missing, certainly, and what I was shown this summer, is that if we take the pliers And ideally also pliers with a little round point here. And we're going to round exactly underneath and the third wire. Here we are. So I've basically rounded the cane here, and this is dry, right? This isn't something that you would necessarily expect to do, is to form the tube when it's dry. And now look at this. Now we see some air opening up between the blades at the first wire area. And so this is what the short bevel is supposed to create, is this space or this tension that's attempting to keep the reed open. So we're using the second wire, as they say, as a fulcrum, meaning sort of the part where the reed balances, where the sort of the teeter-totter is balancing like this. The fulcrum is the point in the middle where the balance is happening. And we're putting much, much more stress on the back end of the reed by rounding that open part. We're putting much more tension to opening up the center line of the blade of the reed. So now I'm going to put a second wire on my favorite place. It's a bit too high. And I always check, no matter how quickly I have to work, I am always checking the wire placements. I never wing it. I've heard some reed makers say, "Oh, a reed maker always knows where the wires go." That's not true. You make mistakes all the time. And if you check your work, you'll notice how much you sort of tend to go in one direction in a session, in a reed making session. So now that the tube is, of course, closed, because the wires are holding that together, and what you can do is you can, below the second wire, increase the tension even more that you were creating below the third wire by rounding the area below the second wire. Sorry, the focus is very, very narrow on this. But it's very difficult. I don't know if you know camera optics at all, but when you have a camera lens which is as long as this one, a 90mm lens, on a crop sensor actually, then the focus becomes very, very shallow. And so this is always a struggle for me as a filming reed making, is to get the reed in focus. There. So what we have now is that the blade of the reed, sorry, not the blade, the tube of the reed is now much more round than it was before. And it's going to, by rounding the area below the second wire and below the third, not only have we kind of created, like we've sealed up the reed better, because it wasn't sealing before, and maybe it might help, just to be safe, because that's where the seam is, to add a bit of glue or something down there, just in case, to seal it up. But now we've created even more pressure for the reed to actually open up in the way in which is sort of like the intention of the short bevel, this style of bevel. Now you might ask yourself, why should I do the short bevel? And the short answer is, as I understand it, this is going to help you if you have excerpts where you have a lot of really high register without any rest. If you're playing, symphony stuff, symphonic repertoire, you're playing first bassoon and you're up there a lot. Or if you have to do a lot of jumping between low and high, then the tip is never really going to collapse. You're not going to have trouble, like in the middle of the performance trying to open up the reed because it's gotten weak over because of the amount of pressure you've been applying to it with your embouchure. And so that's the main intention as far as I understand it. This is sort of like part of the philosophies of Norman Hertzberg, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. But there is such thing as the Hertzberg long bevel as well. So this isn't, it's not like standard for all Hertzberg reeds. There is a spectrum there in terms of what bevel you would use in certain circumstances or for what repertoire. In any case, this is possible really with as far as I have used it. This helps in all cases in terms of shapes or profiles. If you have small reeds and sometimes you build a softer reed in order to help maybe like get a low register excerpt. But over time the cane will kind of crush together and you feel like you have to keep opening the tip. And that at the first wire, I mean. And this may be a helpful solution for that sort of problem. Of course, you can't fix a reed that's already been made. You can't re-bevel what I mean. In any case, I hope that this video has been helpful to you. If you have any questions for me, feel free to write them in the comments section. And if you have any topics that you would like to see me talk about in a future video, then also please do not hesitate to contact me or write it in the comments. So thanks very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. Take it easy. Bye-bye.